Freedom Fighters, to put it bluntly, is goddamn amazing. It might be my favorite game ever made. It came out in 2003, and you play someone named Chris, who's a plumber in New York City, who happens to have a brother who's also a plumber named Mario, and you fight off the Soviet Union after they invade the United States. This is an alternate timeline where the Soviet Union has not collapsed by the 90s and maintained itself not only as a strong nation, but as the sole superpower on the planet. One day on a normal job, the Russians just happened to invade New York City. And it's up to you and your freedom fighter friends that you wind up meeting along the way to push them out of not only New York, but eventually the whole United States. Unfortunately, we don't get to see the push past New York, but hopefully we get to see a sequel to this game or a reboot or something at some point, because I love this game to death. I will continue to play it until the day that I'm dead, and I'd love to see anything associated with it at all from anyone moving forward in any capacity. The game came out in 2003 and was made by IO, the same people behind Hitman, for instance, but it plays nothing like Hitman. It was unique then, and it's still kind of unique now, where you wind up gaining reputation through your actions, and you can hire, or, well, not hire, but bring on new soldiers for free that you could then command with a 3-point command system. One order is advance, one order is rally on me, and another order is defend. It's pretty simple, but the AI was pretty intuitive and very good for the time, and it's still fairly good to this day. They're not gonna, do anything super impressive. I mean, the game did come out in 2003, but it's still pretty cool to see this game hold up as well as it does in the year of our Lord 2024. That part was really cool then, it's really cool now, but the premise is something that we haven't seen in video games, at least since, Homefront, I guess? And Homefront didn't do it very well, in my opinion. Neither of the Homefront games did this very well. I love the idea of a small organization who's tired of their government picking up arms and fighting against it and somehow succeeding. I'm also a sucker for the American invasion story, like Red Dawn, where Russia or Korea or whoever invades, and a small group of people have to rally together, people who usually aren't soldiers or people trained for this, and they can come together to kick out whoever's invaded us. Now, like I said, Homefront 1 and 2 didn't really do this too well, in my opinion. The best representations of this have been seen in movies, or, well, really, I could think of one movie in particular, Red Dawn. But I really like that premise, and outside of the 80s to the early 2000s, we don't really see that anymore. I don't know why. I think it's just a cultural thing, just product of the times, but I kind of miss that, and I like going back to play Freedom Fighters to revisit that kind of story over and over again, to be honest. Freedom Fighters also had then, and still has, really good lighting. If you see the gameplay here, there's muzzle flashes and sparks flying from bullets that hit the walls and stuff. Like, it's always had pretty good lighting, and I think it still holds up to this day. I mean, it's nowhere near photorealistic or anything like that, but in my opinion, artistry usurps realism, and that's how it should always be. If something looks super realistic, it may not be as, quote, good looking as something that's more artistic, but works better because of its artistic approach. And I think the artistic approach that they used for Freedom Fighters works very well, and it kind of makes it timeless. Another cool thing about Freedom Fighters was the mission structure. So there were these areas that you'd go to, and usually there's 1, 2, or maybe upwards of 4 different hubs within a greater area, and each hub has its own list of multiple objectives that you have to complete within them. And some objectives can't be completed until you do another objective from another hub, so you have to kind of puzzle it out and figure out what you have to do, or really just listen to the dialogue. And you hit these areas and blow stuff up and take out supply lines, take out helicopter pads, and these things that you do actually have an effect in the other areas that you wind up going to. So sometimes you'll have to take out, like I said, helicopter pads, and if you take out that helicopter pad, then you won't have to worry about helicopter support for the Russians in another area. It's really cool to see what you do have an effect on the greater map around you. It's not an open world game, but it could easily translate into one if they were to redo this today. Another thing that I absolutely have to mention is the music. Holy God, the music of this game is incredible. I never found or bought the soundtrack to it, though I may own it without even knowing it on PC with the edition that I bought. But the soundtrack for this game is absolutely incredible, and it carries half the game. Not that the gameplay is bad or anything else is bad with it, but the soundtrack just takes what was a great thing and makes it so much better. And while we're on audio, the audio design, just the sounds of the game, are also awesome. The clanky, clicky, plastic and metal-y sounds you get from the guns as you reload and the gunshots, and it's not super realistic, but it's poppy, it's punchy, and it's just beefy enough to feel really good. Again, it's not going to sound like, like you're at a gun range or anything like that, but I like hearing the footsteps and the gunshots and the screams of the Soviets. It's all really good stuff. And then there's the cutscenes. There's these really cool, fun, I guess campy kind of cutscenes. You have your dialogue that's just regular standing around dialogue. There's no cutscenes there. But then you have these news bits, these news reels that play of Soviet TV, putting out Soviet propaganda, talking about the stuff that you've done, and interviews with the generals and stuff like that, with this news anchor who shows up over and over again through the game, and I love that. It's campy, but it's so fun. And I think that's something that's missing from a lot of, at least AAA games today, is that fun factor. There's a million things that I could say about this game that I haven't, but if I kept going, we'd be here for the next 12 hours. Basically, if you have a PC, you could buy the re-release on PC. They didn't upscale it or anything, they just made it playable in 1080p or 4K at 60 FPS. But if you don't have a PC, I definitely suggest getting a PS2 for cheap somewhere. There's mom and pop game stores everywhere. You could buy a PS2 for pretty cheap, and I recommend getting this game. Now, finding a copy on PS2 may be a little bit difficult, but if you can get it, it's totally worth it. I cannot recommend this game enough, and yeah, thanks for listening.
Hey, thanks for watching.
Give us a like if you enjoyed it, and dislike it if you didn't.
Let us know what you think about the channel.
And don't forget to subscribe.
Tell your mom.